The anime opens with a train conductor being brutally slain from behind, and we then see in a noodle house sometime later the Hashira Kyojuro Rengoku receives an order to proceed to the Mugen train in order to find and destroy whatever demon is responsible for the conductor's murder and the disappearance of around 40 of the passengers. After a conversation with a random train conductor, he gains intel that the Mugen train is now being kept in a well-maintained facility nearby. Kyojuro poses as a lunchbox delivery guy to gain the information from the foreman at the facility that the Mugen train will be back in action tomorrow. Kyojuro can't let that happen. After a run-in with a slasher demon who likes to target the innocent, he informs the Demon Slayer Corps of the Mugen train's impending return to service and that he doesn't think he has yet taken out the culprit demon responsible for disappearing the 40 passengers. The next day, Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu board the Mugen train to report to Kyojuro for more information on the mission they have been assigned to. Taken aback at the gluttonous oddity of a demon slayer they meet, Tanjiro and co. are obviously wondering at his ability to lead them. After a short conversation with Tanjiro, however, wherein the rookie Mizunoto instinctively realizes the good intentions within his Hashira superior, Kyojuro puts their doubts to rest as a split-faced demon uncloaks itself before them, and he quickly takes it out with ease. Sensing that this is only just the beginning, Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Kyojuro race off past the terrified and awestruck passengers. Zenitsu chases them, but only to keep up and not get left on his own. A four-eyed demon is about to feast on a cowering passenger when the demon slayers burst into the carriage. Inosuke rushes in. This is a mistake, though, and Kyojuro zips around the carriage at breakneck speed in order to save Inosuke and the demon's intended victim. All the passengers asleep now, we see the desperately miserable Mugen train conductor rush into a nearly deserted carriage, the only other occupants being a small group of creepily placid children and a walking demon hand, complete with eyes and mouth. It grants him his wish of joining his dead family in an inescapable slumber in return for his service, and then tasks its acolyte children with binding the demon slayer's wrists to their own. The hand belongs to Demon Enmu, the fanatic lower one of the 12 Kazuki, who Muzan Kibutsuji, the OG demon and big bad of the show, granted his OP blood last season. He can manipulate human dreams and nightmares, and plans to entrench Tanjiro so far into his family fantasy that he will never notice being eaten. Tanjiro, dreaming, is living a happily mundane life in his dream, with his now unmurdered family. Zenitsu frolics through a wooded, clover-carpeted glade with non-demonified Nezuko in his dream, and Inosuke is undertaking this hilarious quest through a cavernous labyrinth with Nezuko by his side and his now comically dumbed-down underlings, Tanjiro and Zenitsu. Kyojuro, on the other hand, is, in his dream, somberly reliving the disappointing anticlimax of telling his father that he had gained the rank of Hashira. Tanjiro is confronted by his subconscious, who demands that he wake up and fight. Now realizing he is trapped, he starts mumbling in his sleep that he has to wake up. Nezuko, nearby, realizes that something is not adding up and somehow injects the scent of her blood into his dream reality, causing him to tragically have to abandon his family in order to attempt waking up, but not before a heart-wrenching scene wherein his dream family implores him to explain what's happening and he begs their forgiveness. If this didn't make you cry, then good luck with that heartless void in your chest. Tanjiro finds himself unable to escape before realizing that he will need to end his own life in the dream in order to re-enter the real world. Waking up, Tanjiro immediately realizes the situation and unsuccessfully tries to wake the others, while Nezuko burns the ropes tying the demon slayers to their captors. Tanjiro gently and regretfully knocks the young acolyte children out, and has a sweet moment with the boy who had made his way into his soul, and heads off to find Enmu at the head of the train. When finding him, Enmu notices Tanjiro's family earrings and rejoices that his goal target has walked right into his presence. We learn a bit here about how the 12 Kazuki power structure functions, as Enmu reveals that his victory over Tanjiro will gain Muzan's approval. Tanjiro charges head-on into the fray, before being hit point-blank by Enmu's blood demon art, whispers of ordained unconscious mesmerism. However, it turns out Tanjiro has figured the hack, immediately committing suicide each time he is knocked out and trapped inside his own dreamscape. Enmu has no response for this new form of defense against his one-hit talent, and is immediately on the ropes. Tanjiro goes through a complete guilt trip in his dream from his family. However, remember, our boy is pure and realizes that this is all a ploy by Enmu, and he manages to finally decapitate the Kizuki demon. Shock horror, though, as Enmu's head rises up on a terrifyingly tentacular abomination of an appendage. He melts back into the train and Tanjiro is left, desperately running towards and shouting out to his comrades to wake up. He is not disappointed. Inosuke, Tanjiro, and now also Nezuko fight for their life to survive the encroaching demonic walls of the train, and do not see much success at that. Meanwhile, Kyojuro also regains consciousness, and ashamedly, what would the other Hashira think when they found out what he has let this mission come to, starts absolutely bossing the demonic manifestation, as he systematically works his way down the train to Tanjiro. They split up, dividing tasks in order that Tanjiro and Inosuke may search for and destroy Enmu's neck. Tanjiro smells that it is in the floor of the driver compartment, although his first blow is deflected, and a mass of eyes begins blasting the two demon slayers with the bad time sleepy magic. Inosuke is so disoriented that he begins to incorrectly believe that he is dreaming when he is actually conscious, and is stopped from slitting his own throat just in time by Inosuke. The demon sympathizer, train driver, stabs Tanjiro in the torso with another bone blade. Tanjiro overcomes all difficulties and destroys Enmu by slicing him through his neck. The possessed train derails and horrifically grinds to a halt in a forested area. Enmu is also feeling pretty salty, blaming his failure, and rightfully so, on Tanjiro and the rest of his cohort on the train. Enter a new badass demon, Akaza. Both of his eyes are marked, and he recovers from Kyojuro's first strike so fast that it leads us to understand that he is one of the upper demons of Muzan's private force. Kyojuro is equally forthright and stands firm and strong in the face of what must be his biggest fight yet, looming over him. He refuses Akaza's offer to be transformed into a demon in the name of survival. They clash and fight at such a fast pace that Tanjiro cannot track their movements from his vantage point on the battle sideline. Akaza, impressed with the demon slayer he's fighting, makes the offer again to turn him into a demon, and yet again Kyojuro refuses before rallying and attacking. This battle is a work of furious art, and we see some of the most OP moves of the entire show yet. Duty-bound to his very core, Kyojuro impresses Akaza with his spirit and physical stance as he makes his final stand. Kyojuro slices downward and splits his enemy's arm like kindling, thrusts his blade into the seemingly invincible demon, twists it, and heaves it in an upward motion, slicing straight through to and out of his shoulder, causing a fire tornado to erupt around him. Now pleading with him, Akaza begs him to accept his offer to become a demon, as he has a special power. Kyojuro thinks back to his dying mother, telling him as a child that he was born with such strength in order to protect the weak, and that having such a child was a blessing for her, and that she believes in him. As adult Kyojuro blocks Akaza's finishing blow, he intones to his mother that he was the one who was blessed to be born to such a woman, and stops Akaza from withdrawing his fist, hoping to keep him in the open while the sunrise fast approaches. Tanjiro rallies and races towards the duel, determined to slice the demon's head off. All to no avail, as Akaza rips off his own arms and escapes. Kyojuro beckons to Tanjiro, and in his dying moments requests that Tanjiro travel to his home to search for more information about the Hinokami Kagura dance, which Tanjiro asked about when first having met Kyojuro. He also asks that Tanjiro passes on messages of love and kindness to his younger brother and father. Kyojuro believes Tanjiro will become a Hashira, and tells him not to be sad at his passing, and sees his mother waiting for him in the afterlife. Tanjiro breaks down, overcome by how life seems to constantly throw walls up, and a tearful Kasugai crow wings its way to Core HQ to inform them of the events that have transpired. The Hashira are shocked at the inability of Kyojuro to defeat the upper-level demon and mourn his loss. It turns out that Akaza was already in the vicinity of the Mugen train on another mission for Muzan, one to obtain the mysterious blue spider lily, and this was the only reason that Muzan had asked him to attend at all. At Kyojuro's house, Tanjiro arrives, still recovering, to talk to Senjiro, Kyojuro's younger brother. He is about to pass on the final message of his dead older brother when they are interrupted by Senjiro and Kyojuro's drunken father, Shinjiro. The cynical drunk reveals to Tanjiro that he knows, due to his red earrings, that the Mizunoto is a sun breather, and that sun breathing is the original and most powerful of all Demon Slayer breathing techniques. Tanjiro is both shocked and dismayed to learn this, as he tried to use his father's Hinokami Kagura move during the Mugen Train battle. But his body does not yet move in the way he needs it to move, to be useful. Shinjiro and Tanjiro have a small stoush with each other. Later, recovering from this brief conflict in the family home, Tanjiro is approached by Senjiro, who thanks him for sticking up to Shinjiro and gives him the text that should be able to reveal the sun-breathing secrets that Tanjiro seeks. Shinjiro has, however, ripped the pages to shreds. After Tanjiro departs, Senjiro passes on Kyojuro's message to his father to take care of himself. 4 months later at the Butterfly Mansion, the sound Hashira Tengen Uzui is convinced to let the fully recovered Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke accompany him to the Yoshiwara Entertainment District, a known hotbed of lust and demonic activity, and the location of their next mission. As they arrive at the entertainment district for some basic reconnaissance, the 3 young demon slayers are completely overwhelmed by the mystique of the nightlife that flows around them. Tengen hustles to regroup the wayward youths and tells them that this place is a ghost town in the daytime, but roars to life at night, which is the perfect context for demons to thrive. He has already been trying to use subterfuge to reveal exactly what is going on in the district, by sending his 3 ninja kunoichi wives to embed themselves in its most prominent brothels. They have all stopped checking in, however, so he has brought the 3 boys to help search for the wives and further investigate any demonic undertakings. They will do this by dressing as women, and themselves finding work in the 3 brothels, wherein Tengen's wives were also infiltrating. Inosuke, in particular, is the most prized by his new employers who love his feminine looks, while Tanjiro is taken in for his obedience, and Zenitsu takes to the shamisen. It turns out that one of the wives, Suma, has disappeared and has probably been taken by demons. We discover through their investigations that the upper-rank 6th demon, Daki, or Warabahime as she is known to the humans there, has been posing as different Oiran, the highest-ranking courtesan of a house, for generations. She was found out by the head madam of the brothel that is housing Zenitsu, so she dropped her from midair onto the street, killing her 2 days ago. Having a small run-in with Zenitsu, she can tell by the fact that he is not killed by her blow that he is probably a demon slayer, and she rejoices in the fact that the demon slayer corps has taken the bait she has taken time to lay. Secretly meeting up on a rooftop the next day, Inosuke tries to convince Tanjiro that there has been a demon in his brothel. Arriving stealthily, Tengen informs the 2 Mizunoto that Zenitsu is missing, probably at the hands of a high-ranking demon, and that they are excused from the mission, much to their frustration. After realizing that they have been promoted to Kanoe, they decide to stay anyway, and Tanjiro deduces that there must be a secret passage into Inosuke's house that the demon is using, and they plan to investigate this further later tonight. After a series of events that leads to the unmasking of Warabahime as Daki, Tanjiro confronts her alone. He is hit hard by Daki, and this damages one of the shoulder straps of Nezuko's box, and Tanjiro is forced to put her down before countering a new attack from Daki with water-breathing 4th form striking Tide Turbulent, and he clashes with the demonic Obi belt that she has after some aerial combat. Daki pauses just long enough to compare Tanjiro to a cute rat on the brink of death, and he in turn wonders, after seeing her eye tattoo announcing her upper rank, if he can truly win this fight on his own. Meanwhile, Tengen finds one of his wives, Hinatsuru, hiding out on the outskirts of Yoshiwara, and she tells him that she tried to escape her brothel by imbibing poison, but by this point it was too late. Daki already suspected her and gave her a demonic obi that was spying on her. Tengen then scrambles to get back into the district center to find the action that has already begun unfolding. Meanwhile, Tanjiro is fighting hard. He makes an attack, and Daki thinks it's too easy for her, but it's a decoy move, fake rainbow, and he is already darting in to hit her hard with Hinokami Kagura Fire Wheel. But she is too fast, mocks him, and slaps him to the ground with her obi. The built-up fatigue that using Hinokami Kagura inflicts is affecting Tanjiro, and he works hard to rally and engage in sword-to-obi combat. Inosuke, meanwhile, finds the massive tangle of pink obi belt that we previously saw binding Makio, one of Tengen's other wives, but he now sees that it is covered with print decals of all the victims, including Makio and Zenitsu, of Daki. He is then attacked by the obi itself, which turns out to be autonomous and in direct telepathic DM contact with Daki. After a bizarre fight with what is essentially a giant tapeworm, yeah, get that image out of your mind, I dare you, Inosuke manages to free Zenitsu and two of Tengen's wives before Tengen himself arrives to join the fight. He makes short work of the obi, reducing it to a mass of shredded ribbon-like material in one short attack. However, this is not the last we have seen of the obi. Daki throws caution to the wind and whips her obi across the street in a slashing motion, splitting houses, the road, and onlookers into pieces. Daki mocks Tanjiro, who has been struck in an effort to protect one of the locals, and the whites of his eyes become clouded with blood. This, he muses, must mean he is not truly meant to wield the power of sun-breathing. However, he now chooses to rise above this shortcoming in the name of defeating the pure evil that is Daki. He begins decrying her actions, and she recalls the words of his ancestor, who said something similar, but not to her. She is receiving the memories of Muzan by the proxy of his blood flowing in her veins. Tanjiro, nearly defeated, collapses, vulnerable, when Nezuko appears out of nowhere and knocks Daki across town with a skull-bursting kick to the head. Daki survives and recalls Muzan telling her to dispose of a demon that slipped from his grasp, and realizes this has to be her. With Tanjiro collapsed and bleeding, the focus of the battle switches to these two OP demons. But after vivisecting Nezuko, Daki is amazed and horrified to find that her opponent's rate of regeneration is on par with any upper-ranked demon. Daki now simultaneously de-limbs and decapitates Nezuko, but Nezuko uses her coagulating blood to maintain a physical connection to her torso, and heals even quicker than Daki ever could. Proceeding to stomp Daki's head into the ground, Nezuko now unexpectedly faces a challenge she has not had to reckon with since the first episode of the show. She accidentally causes a bystander to bleed and is overcome with bloodlust. Ready to strike, Daki is anticlimactically and swiftly beheaded by Tengen, who arrives at breakneck speed. Daki throws a tantrum when Tengen claims she was too easy to kill by the upper six Kizuki, and he was right. The real upper six is her brother, Gyutaro, who now squeezes himself out of Daki's body. This is enough to keep Tengen on the ropes while Gyutaro tends to Daki and they combine forces. Tanjiro, meanwhile, is trying to keep control of Nezuko, who is barely keeping it under wraps after her attempt to use her bloodlust. We now learn that Tengen is one of the rare shinobi and was encouraged by his father to train as though his life depended on it as a child, after 7 of his 9 siblings were cut down before his 15th birthday. The 3 Kanoe demon slayers arrive on the scene as backup, and citizens of the district begin to flee the area in droves. Tengen becomes very sure of himself, telling the demons that their defeat is at hand. His self-assured foretelling of the demons' defeat is dampened, though, when Gyutaro reveals that he has eaten 15 Hashira and Daki has eaten 7, a blood-curdling consideration. Tengen takes control of the battle against the 2 demons and holds his own quite well. To top things off, as well as everything else he does, Tengen plays to his strengths amazingly. Hinatsuru arrives on the scene and fires a full brace of wisteria poison-laced kunai at Gyutaro. He defends against most of them, but It doesn't take much of the poison to work, and one of them, having made its way into his leg, makes him unable to regenerate his severed legs. Tanjiro is determined to reach the captured Hinatsuru, but is out of stamina. Enter his combination of Hinokami Kagura and water breathing, the perfect combo to deliver speed and greater attack power. He realizes that this kind of flexible fighting style is the best way to fight demons, and he manages to push Gyutaro away from Hinatsuru. Meanwhile, Inosuke and Zenitsu go for the team approach, with Inosuke being amazed at how strategically smart Zenitsu is now that he's in his battle trance. Tanjiro defends Hinatsuru once more from an attack from Daki, but he is becoming sluggish and Daki knows it. However, they finally manage to decapitate Daki, and Inosuke, in true Inosuke style, sprints away from the scene of the crime, carrying Daki's head in order to avoid letting Gyutaro reconnect it. Tanjiro is knocked out. However, regaining consciousness, he realizes just in time the predicament he's in. Daki is reunited with her head once more. Man, that thing just keeps popping on and off. All of his comrades are now out of action, and Gyutaro looms over him. Gyutaro doesn't do anything original here and offers him the chance to become a demon instead of dying. Tanjiro appears to think about it, breathes heavily, then headbutts Gyutaro while simultaneously stabbing him in the leg with another wisteria-poisoned kunai. Turns out Tanjiro only made it look like he was running to Nezuko before, when he was actually going for the kunai. Gyutaro rips out the kunai, neutralizes the poison, and pushes Tanjiro back. Tengen arrives to save him in the final moments before being impaled through the skull. We find out later he has stopped his own heart to halt the poison circulating in his system. Tengen and Gyutaro clash in an almighty show of their mightiest and most deadly hand-to-hand combat yet, and Tanjiro runs in to behead the Kizuki demon. In one of the most theatrical displays I have seen in an anime to date, Daki and Gyutaro are decapitated simultaneously. No time to celebrate, though, as the sickle blade's poison starts hitting Tanjiro hard. Tengen has lost an arm from the fight, and his wives now sit around him as he feels the poison taking a hold of him. Nezuko arrives and, much to the shock and alarm of the wives, burns his poison away. Tanjiro now rides on Nezuko's back through the decimated landscape as he is completely exhausted, and they find a pool of his foe's blood. He collects some and sends it via the usual vanishing cat postal service to Tamayo for her research. Gyutaro, dying, recalls in his last moments that Daki's name was actually Ume, being named for the disease that killed their mother. The upper six Kizuki of the time stumbled upon the pair of them when they were down and out and turned them into demons. Gyutaro awakens in the netherworld and is reunited with Ume there. They make up, and I will be darned if this show did not just go and make me feel genuine hurt in the face of their falling out and then hope for them, as they make up in a most beautiful scene of sibling love that rivals any of the scenes between Tanjiro and Nezuko. The Demon Slayer Corps representative is flabbergasted to hear that Tanjiro not only survived but was instrumental in the upper six Kizuki's defeat, and Tengen recommends him to become his own replacement. Meanwhile, back in the Escher-inspired Infinity Castle, Akaza is summoned into Muzan's presence and realizes that this means a position in the upper rank Kizukis just opened up.